One of the biggest issues when it comes to nutrition these days are just a lot of the fitness influencers online who just kind of push this agenda that a calorie is a calorie and it doesn't matter how you get your nutrition in as long as you're hitting your macro goals. And this just kind of leads to a lot of people promoting like dirty bulking, where a lot of these influencers go and they get fast food in between workouts and things like this and just say that this is normal and that it's just all they need to do is just hit their protein goals or their calorie goal. It doesn't matter about the actual nutrients and what you're actually taking in and how this effect is going to have on your body. They're just saying that, oh, a calorie is a calorie and you just need to hit a certain goal. On the other hand, you've got doctors who, if you go into a doctor nowadays, all they really do is just prescribe you medication and they don't actually fix the underlying issue that a lot of people have when they go to a doctor. So for example, a lot of the sicknesses and a lot of the kind of like obesity that you see today, a lot of this can be solved just by fixing your diet and completely fixing your nutrition. Whereas if you actually go into a GP these days, they don't actually ask you these underlying questions and actually try and figure things out. A lot of the times what they'll do is they'll just prescribe you like sort of a drug or a capsule and just tell you to keep taking it and just tell you that this is going to help you lose weight. It's actually a lot deeper than this, and this is what we're going to dive into today, which is just the nutrition advice you need, which is going to really help you shred fat fast and also put on a ton of muscle really quickly. So I got up to 200 pounds, just over 10% body fat, just kind of following this process, which I'm going to outline today. So I highly recommend that you use this as well. So the first topic to talk about is just imagine 30, 40 years ago, our ancestors who were in the 70s or the 60s or even the 1800s. None of them were fat and none of them would get any of these sicknesses that we see today that are just so common or common diseases. And if you think back, what do you think our ancestors would eat? A lot of times, what our ancestors were actually eating was just organic, single ingredient foods in their natural state. So they wouldn't be eating a lot of this processed diet which we get today, where you see things like oatmeal, which have a ton of sugar in them, or just sugary cereal in the morning, which is so common, where a lot of people today think that having breakfast is the most important meal of the day, when it's actually probably the least important by a mile. And so there's just all this kind of processed food, which you see in the supermarket, which so many people keep on buying, without paying attention to the impact that this is going to have on their overall health. And also, obviously, it's going to help you put on a ton more fat. And it's going to also decrease your ability to put on muscle and to actually improve your body composition. So, think back to what our ancestors used to eat. They would just be eating organic food, and it would just be in their natural state. So it would be single ingredient. So this would be things like chicken, meat, nuts, berries, some vegetables, eggs, and maybe raw honey. And they would be cooking with maybe olive oil or butter and ghee. But that was just about it. That was literally their whole diet, and they would never get sick, or they would hardly ever get sick. Nowhere near as common as people get sick today. And also, if you have a look back, none of them were actually fat back in the 1800s. You can search up some photos. I think there was one photo that was going viral where they took a photo of the same beach from 1970 to 2020. And everyone in 1970 was just thin. They had like a little bit of muscle going on. Bodybuilding wasn't that big back then as it was in the 90s and is now. But then if you compare that to the photo of 2020, there were so many obese people. I think there's a statistic saying that like 50% of Americans over the age of 25 are actually obese. So it's just like actually becoming incredible. And the biggest reason for this is just this shift in diet, shift towards these processed foods, where a lot of them have a lot of chemicals which have been made up in labs. And a lot of this is just extremely unhealthy. And the nutritional value that you're getting in these calories is just really poor, which is obviously leading to a lot more obesity, less muscle, more fat, and more sickness as well. So one thing to mention, another thing which is really going to help, is actually plastics. If you can avoid this in your food, then this is really going to make a difference as well, because it's just going to improve the nutritional value of what you're eating. So if you see a lot of food these days, like steak, chicken, a lot of meats, they're actually wrapped in plastic. If you can find a company that is going to ship to you in paper, this is going to lead to just really increasing the quality of this food because all these microplastics just end up seeping into the food. This is going to, obviously, it's going to affect the food that you're eating, and it's also, that's going to really have a compounding impact on your health and your testosterone. So if you can try and make a conscious effort, it might be difficult for some people depending on what country you're living in and the resources you have, etc. But if you can try and avoid plastics in your food, this is really going to help as well. Definitely don't cook anything in the microwave with these plastic containers that say that they're microwavable safe, because a lot of times they just take out some of the chemicals which have been proven to melt in the microwave, and then they just replace it with new chemicals which just do the exact same thing, but they're just less researched. So the next bit of advice is just tracking your calories and tracking your macronutrients. So if you're someone who has a goal, you've got maybe like 20-25% body fat and you want to slim down to 10%, just think of losing fat like an iPhone. If you start at the start of the day and you've got 100% battery, and then you use it throughout the day, and you put it down to 30%, and then you charge it and plug it in back up to 80%, there's still that 20% deficit from where you were at the start of the day to where you are now. So this is exactly how fat loss works in the human body. You just need to make sure that you're burning off more calories than what you're consuming, which is therefore going to create that deficit, so that you're obviously burning more calories than you're consuming, you're going to be in a deficit, and you're going to lose fat. It's actually really that simple if you think about it. So find out what your maintenance is, find out how much calories you need to eat to actually maintain your current weight, and then just drop this by 100 to 200 calories per day. And what's going to happen is you're going to see a steady decline because you're in that deficit. You're just going to continuously lose fat, and you're going to get down to exactly where you need to be. Conversely, if you want to put on more muscle, just do the same thing, except just increase the amount of calories by 100 to 200 per day. When people talk about protein goals, a lot of this is actually over-exaggerated today, where people think that you need 2.2 grams of protein for every kg of your body weight, or 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight. Whereas it's actually kind of been debunked. You only need 0.8 grams of protein per pound, or 1.6 grams of protein per kg. So all you really need to be doing is making sure that you're hitting this protein goal, and you're therefore going to be able to put on enough muscle. And that's what's really going to feed the hypertrophy process to lead to you putting on muscle. So if you can source this protein and these nutrients in an organic, sustainable way, then this is just going to make you so much more healthier. It's going to lead to less sickness, and it's going to lead to you just really being able to improve your muscle mass while also burning a ton of fat at the same time. So the last final piece of advice I want to leave you with is just think back to what I said about our ancestors and eat this exact diet. So all your diet should really be consisting of is organic meat. So look out for the word organic, because a lot of cows and chickens are fed conventional diets these days. They're not out in the sun getting vitamin D and eating grass, which is obviously going to affect the quality of the food, which is going to have a massive effect on your hormones and your ability to put on muscle and lose fat as well. So pay out for the word organic, and just make sure that you actually know what you're consuming. So like I said, just single ingredient meals. Just eat nuts, meat, chicken, eggs. You can eat honey as well. Raw honey is really good. And then also fruit, vegetables, berries, obviously as well. But then just make sure that when you're cooking your food, cook it with something healthy. Don't use vegetable oils. This has been proven to really help people put on a lot of weight, especially fat. And it actually is detrimental to muscle growth as well, because it affects your hormones. So cut this out. Just use butter, ghee, or olive oil. And if you just simplify your diet and make sure that you're actually hitting your protein goals within this diet, you can use ingredients like sweet potato or nuts, avocado, to really actually boost the amount of calories that you're taking in. So you're getting the calories that you need. And also, all of these foods I mentioned are going to be really rich in protein as well. So if you want to build on a ton of muscle and slim down that fat, just stick to these ingredient meals. This is going to really lead to you putting on that muscle that you really need. And it's also just going to be highly, almost impossible to put on fat if you're sticking to this diet, as long as you're not overdoing your calorie goals. So if you can stick to this advice, this is really all the nutritional advice that you really need. This is going to help you really maximize your muscle growth, maximize your progress, and also just going to thin out the fat in your physique and make you look fantastic.